You've got 6 buttons on your eTrex. First of all, you've got the light button, so you can press and hold that to switch the unit on and off, and you can also press and let go, and that takes you to a page where you can adjust the backlight. The next one, you've got your up and down keys. Now you can use those to navigate throughout the menus up and down, and also to zoom in and out when you're in the map. Your next button is your menu. Now you can press this whatever feature you're in, and it'll take you to a sub-menu for that feature, and then if you press it again, it takes you back to the main menu. The next one we've got is back. Now that's quite self-explanatory. You just press it to return to the previous function or menu that you were in. And then finally, you've got the click stick at the front there. Now you use that to move up, down, left and right through the menus or through your features, and also you press down on that to select something, select a function from a menu. The first thing you have to do with your new eTrex is put the batteries in. So you remove the back cover. You can see there's an SD card slot in there where you can add more mapping if you want to. And then we just pop the batteries in and refit the back cover and turn the little metal key to make sure that it's securely fitted. Once the batteries are in, you press and hold the light button and the unit will then power up. And it takes a few seconds just to start up for everything to get going. And once it's ready, you'll see the main menu appear. There we go. As soon as the unit's powered up, it's automatically searching for satellites, and this will usually take a few minutes if you've got a good view of the sky. There's a function on the main menu called satellite, which is really useful for telling if you've got a GPS fix or not. You can see here it displays your location here as a longitude and latitude, and if that's displayed there, then you know that you've got a GPS fix. Now we can actually change the way that that location data is displayed, because a longitude and latitude isn't necessarily useful for everybody, especially in the UK if you're using them in conjunction with maps. So you can go up to Setup on the main menu and then choose Position Format and change it from the default, which is longitude and latitude, to British Grid. Now what that means is when you go back to that satellite page to pinpoint your location, it'll be displayed as a grid reference that works on an Ordnance Survey map. So we can see there we've got a 10-figure grid reference, so we can always locate ourselves on a map. There's a couple more bits of setup that you can do to make sure that your GPS unit's going to be working as accurately as it can, and these are in the setup menu under System. So we can change the satellite system to GPS and GLONASS, that means it's using both GPS and GLONASS satellites, and we can also turn WAS and EGNOS on, which are both systems that improve GPS accuracy. A really good idea before you actually set out on the hill is to mark a waypoint at your starting point. It means that you can always find your way back if you get lost or if you go a different way to the way that you've planned. So in this case we're going to mark a waypoint at the car park before we set off. So you select Mark Waypoint from your main menu, that records your current location and you can give it whatever name you want to. Once you've put the name in, you go down and click Done. Once that's saved, it'll show up on your map, it'll show up in your waypoint manager, and you can always see how far away you are from that point. Okay, so now we're ready to set off. We need to start navigating on the route that we planned in on Garmin Basecamp. Now the way we do that is on the main menu we select Where To, and that brings up various different things that we can navigate to, waypoints, tracks. If we select Routes, our route will be in there, it's the top one on the list. And when we select that, then it will show us the route on the map with a big option to go at the bottom. So you can see the waypoints laid out there, joined up. So we select Go, and that takes us to the map screen showing our route on there. As well as looking at the route on the map, we can also follow the compass. So if we go to the main menu and select Compass, you see we've got a big arrow in the middle there that's pointing us to our next waypoint in the route, so we can follow that along our route. Key thing about the Garmin range of outdoor GPS is they're fully outdoor optimised, ruggedised and completely waterproof. It's actually waterproof to IPX7, which means it can be submerged for up to half an hour in up to a meter's depth of water. So it means I don't have to worry about crossing this river at all. Okay, so we're just going to talk a bit about the eTrex range. So far we've been using the eTrex 20, but also in the eTrex range you have the eTrex 10, which is the most basic model, and the eTrex 30, which is the most featured model in the eTrex range. So the eTrex 10, the most basic model, it's a really good entry-level unit, really good to have as a backup for emergencies or for if you get lost. So you can see here you've got your same main menu as on the eTrex 20, but it's in grayscale. So when we look at the map, you can see there's no real features. This unit doesn't have any mapping and you can't add any mapping in. What you do have is a little triangle here showing your position. This dark line here is the route that we've programmed in, and this dotted line is our track. So you can use the map page for reference so you can see if you're en route and see which direction you have to go. You can see we've got a lot more detail on the map on the eTrex 20. This is Garmin's Topo Light mapping. We've got contour lines, we've got dotted lines for footpaths and rights of way, we've got roads, and also our route here is a coloured line, and our track is this sky blue one here, and you can see the waypoints. So as you move from the eTrex 10 to the eTrex 20, basically you get the colour screen, which means that it's compatible with mapping, and it's a lot more detailed. Okay, another difference that you've got between the units is with the compass that comes on them. So on the eTrex 10 and on the eTrex 20, you have something called a GPS compass, which we looked at earlier. It gives you a reading of north, south, east and west, and it also has a big direction pointer which points you to your next waypoint in your route. The key thing to know about the compass on the eTrex 10 and the eTrex 20 is that it uses the GPS satellites to determine your direction and your heading. What that means is it actually requires lateral movement to be able to tell the direction, so it won't point the right way if you stood still. A feature that comes on the eTrex 30, you have an electronic compass which will point the right direction even when you stood still. We can see when we compare the compasses, because we're stood still, the compass on the eTrex 10 and the eTrex 20 don't actually point the right way. Because we've got the electronic compass on the eTrex 30, that's pointing the right way. So if we rotate the unit, you can see that the arrow moves. Whereas if we rotate one of the other units, the arrow stays still. So we talked about the eTrex 10 being an ideal backup device. And one reason that's really useful, you can always pinpoint where you are on a map. So if we go down to this satellite function here, select that, we actually get in the top corner a 10-figure grid reference telling us our current position. So we can always find out where we are using a map.
In order to be able to locate ourselves on a map using our GPS, we need to be able to read a grid reference. All Ordnance Survey maps feature a grid which is numbered along the bottom and up the side, and we can use these numbers to determine which grid square a particular feature, so in this case a church, is located. So starting with the bottom set of numbers, we can see this feature is located in square 6429, and these numbers form the first part of our grid reference, 6429. We can locate a feature more accurately within the grid square by imagining 9 more grid lines within the grid square and looking at where our feature is corresponding to these imaginary grid lines. So in this case we look at number 4 and then number 2. These numbers form the rest of our 6-figure grid reference, so we've got 644292. GPS units will actually give us a 10-figure grid reference. However, we can't really be that accurate using a paper map and the human eye, so we just ignore the last 2 numbers, basically replace them with zeros.
Something that the eTrex range is really commonly used for is geocaching, which is a hugely popular sport. It's basically a huge electronic treasure hunt set all over the world. So people hide things in the outdoors, usually a small sort of Tupperware box or a film canister. They then log its location and put a description on geocaching.com. We can then go online, download geocaches to our GPS unit, and then go and find them when we're out and about. All the Garmin range is set up for paperless geocaching, and it's really good fun. It's a great way to get into the outdoors.
So we've downloaded a geocache to this unit, and we know that it's in this area and we want to go and find it. So what we do is go to Where To and select Find Another, because we're currently navigating on our route. Then we can see in this menu we've got geocaches here. So we select that, and it's actually the only one that we've got saved in there. So we quite simply select that geocache and hit go. And then we basically get a map screen showing us a simple one-leg route to that geocache. We can follow the map, or it's actually easier to follow the compass like we did before. Okay, so the GPS is telling me we're about 5 metres away now, so we know that it's going to be around here somewhere, but if we're not exactly sure where to look, we can look on the description and see if there's any hints there that we can look at as well. Okay, so we can go down from your main menu to geocaches, look at here, and from there we can show the description, which has the whole description on the screen, and then more importantly, show hint. So it says cache to the right of Little Gate. Okay, so our hint tells us that it's to the right of the small gate, which to me is pretty obviously going to be down here. A little look in there. There we go, we found it. So this is, you can see, labelled up as a micro geocache in a little film canister. Inside we've just got a little logbook with people who found it and the dates. So all we have to do is sign that, and then once we've signed, put it back in the box, and you always put them back where you found them. Back in there, and then we can log the attempt on here and say that we found it. Okay, so we're about done with our walk and ready to head back to the car. So we're going to use the feature that we mentioned in the first module, something called trackback, which uses the track log because the unit all the time's been recording where we've been, and it can now turn us around and we can follow it to take us back to where we started. To use trackback, we go back to the main menu, select Where To, Find Another, and then we want to look at tracks. From this we select our current track, which is a record of where we've been today. And we can see it's the sky blue line on there, and we just select go. And now we can follow that in the same way we've been following the compass all day. And that'll take us back along the same route that we've come so far.